Somejerk, and this is my song Shift. It's a drum and bass track, and I'm going to explain a little bit about how I did it and why I did it. So at the beginning, I of course decided to keep it very simple and just make it so it's very easy to mix. But if you're listening to headphones, for example, walking around without any mixing, you'll still be able to appreciate it. I tend to stick with very old school sounding drum and bass samples, things that have been used already, and try to use them in a newer way. So a lot of the drums are older samples, the synth and the stab you hear are also older samples. And generally I try to have things progress so that every 8 bars to 16 bars is completely different, or a new layer has been built on or kind of peeled away. So I've been kind of making my music in a weird way where instead of having the drop where everything happens and, you know, the crap kind of hits the fan, I break it down and go into this very kind of like dark, minimal sort of a vibe like that. So that if people are in a crowd and they're hearing it live for the first time, they're like, whoa, why did it just go quiet? They're kind of like, you know, what's going on? The goal, of course, being to build tension. To me, music is all about tension and release and mood and atmosphere. And then I get a little choppy with my drums. So all of this is really kind of like a tribute to different drum and bass songs. For example, Photek. A lot of the sounds I use are similar to what he uses. And then I start to add more and more drums and make it more complex. So by this point, if someone's DJing or dancing, they already know what they've got themselves into. It's just going to keep building and building and building. And then now it's just full on tear out drum and bass. But I try to balance it out a little bit. It's half step, but it's still, you know, a little up tempo and aggressive, but not too aggressive. Again, more references to older drum and bass styles. Really taking samples that weren't used in this way and trying to reuse them. A little bit different. But it's still a drum and bass song at its core, no matter how you look at it. So when you make a song for DJing, you have to have all these long, drawn-out parts to fit the formula. Otherwise, if it happens too fast, it's not enough time to mix. If it happens too slow, DJs will get bored. So I do my best to work for the attention span as well as for technical things. But with that said, I'm going to go ahead and skip over. I guess I'll just leave it. I have a bad habit of skipping over parts. You've never heard this before, so I guess I can just let it go. So at this point, you know, people are probably like wiping the sweat from their brow. They're like, oh, I've been dancing so furiously. Or they were like, oh, this song sucks. They went to the bathroom. Maybe now they're coming back from the bathroom, getting another drink. I don't know. So with my songs, I do the same thing again for the second half, but I usually flip the drums, chop things up, maybe change the key. But with this, I really just focused on making the drums very off, to the point that my girlfriend was like, oh, what's up with this part? I'm like, well, if you're not listening to it, it's just join. Yeah, part of my goal is it sounds old, but there's still some newer quality to it. But again, it's just a drum and bass song. You know, you can't do so much in one song. Right now, if you have the subwoofer going crazy, hopefully making people move around a little bit. So in addition to this version, which is my own version, I've also commissioned artists like DLX and Pon from California, as well as a bunch of others to do remixes of it, and that'll be out sometime, probably January 2015. I'll have the mastering done by Fanu, I'm a very big fan of. So that way this project was more about, aside from the song itself, more about involving other artists to create their own interpretation of it. So you can literally hear what they thought of it and how they worked it. Some of them are more neurofunk style, some of them are footwork, others are just straight up jungle. And then the other two, I don't even know what to call them. And that really, to me, is the beautiful part of interpretation, is they can do whatever they want, and you can hear what's going on in their brains. And that's it. Try to exit it with a little atmospheric vibe. It's kind of an abrupt ending, but, you know, it's okay. With the build-up in particular, I'm going to focus on that for a moment. You can hear the sort of the separation of the two sounds. For example, this is just an 808 kick that is just sort of pitching down. Then I have a complementary sample. You can hear very lightly coming in. This is being automated, so I'm going to jump a little bit further ahead. So this by itself, you know, this is what it sounds like, just barely even audible. So then I layered that with an 808 kick, because it's this nice old school stab sort of vibe. Then I continued building, you know, all these other layers of bass together. So without the drums, without the other stuff, it's just bass. Nothing really fantastic. Then with the drums, you know, I took a pretty straightforward approach, meaning I didn't really use any MIDI for any of this. This is all just audio clips chopped up a bit. The drums by themselves, not very much going on. And then gradually I introduced all the other elements, just trying to create a very full sound. And then together it all comes together like that. My goal with this one too is to make it very simple, very straightforward. I have a problem with doing too much at a time. And my favorite part is, of course, the Ambient break that I'm cutting up. And what else do we have? Yeah, again, I'm a very big fan of using a lot of atmospherics and ambient sounds and whatnot. Like in the beginning, for example, this actually, you know, is filtered, and without the filter, it sounds a little bit different. So using the auto filter, I can really make it sound a little bit different. So again, you know, taking an existing sound that I had from who knows what sample pack, throwing it into here, and trying to create something a little bit different out of it. And that's pretty much the whole track. It's just drums, bass, some other sounds. Somebody once told me that the secret to making good drum and bass is that you only have drums, you only have bass, and then you have something else going on. A synth lead, a vocal. You cannot have too many things going on at one time. So my objective is to do that, and then cram in as much stuff as I can, because I come from a very IDM, breakcore, experimental sort of background. I recommend, number one, only work for an hour or two at a time. Take a break after 2 hours, walk your dog, cook something, go to the store, take care of emails, whatever it is, because after an hour or two, your brain is just not working. Take breaks. Number two, don't work loud all the time. Your ears are tired, your brain is tired, you're just not hearing what's really there. Number three, try to produce stuff you don't like. Try to produce genres you're not into. That way you get insight into their way of doing things. You just get a better feel for how to be a more well-rounded producer. And number four, whatever kind of music you're making, try not to listen to too much of it because you're gonna end up sounding like it. There's sort of a weird cliche about that, but I find it to be true. For me, what that means is there have been new records from Flying Lotus, Clark, all these other artists I have not listened to this year, even though they've been out for a few months. Come the new year, when I'm done with all these projects, I'm taking 2 weeks off where I'm not producing anything, and I'm going to listen to this music and get caught up with it. But for now, I'm in my own little world. And I guess lastly, try to imagine the context of your music. Is someone at a club? Are they coming home after the club? Are they listening with headphones? Think about what's going to make them dance, what's going to make you dance, and try to find a middle ground with all of that. Unless you're making music that's not dance music, then you think about it. Are they in a cafe? Are they at a lounge? Are they at a massage parlor? I don't know what else people do other than dancing to music. But think about the context of it, and most importantly, think about the focal point, thing that people are going to be listening to. For example, if you're making instrumental music, there's still a focal point. If you're making music with vocals, the vocal is the focal point, of course, because that's what our brains we're the most used to hearing. We've heard vocals or voices first. But if you're making instrumental electronic music, like most of my music is instrumental, I still have a focal point. And if you don't really know what that means, then I guess you should start to really learn about kind of making music from the ground up. Piano lessons, take guitar lessons, anything. And then eventually you'll understand what I mean by a focal point. You have to have an idea of the energy. You have to build tension and release. It has to go somewhere. There's a cliche about it being a story, but yes, you have to tell a story. The story doesn't have to have words, but it has to go somewhere. Otherwise, if it's a 3.5-minute loop, it's not a song. So that's Shift. It'll be out in January with remixes from a bunch of different people, and you can visit signaflow.com to listen to it. You can buy it if you want. You can download it for free. It's up to you.